What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. So, Aaron Rodgers ACL tear is confirmed. He's going to be out for the season. I'm depressed and pissed all over again, realistically, but trying to get some objective thoughts here about the aftermath of what's going to happen now that we know we are not going to have Aaron Rodgers for the season. So, if we start with the headmaster himself, Aaron Rodgers, obviously we're not going to have him coming back at any point this season. So the focus turns to Zach Wilson, which Robert Saleh confirmed will be our QB1. He says for the season, I get the feeling that if you see a couple losses start to pile up, and it's going to be very easy early because, the first 6 to 8 weeks is the hardest part of our schedule on paper. You'll start to, especially as you get closer to that week 8 deadline, you're going to start thinking we can get, somebody in here that can maximize this roster. Every one of us thought average quarterback play last year got us into the playoffs. Some of us that are a little bit more bolder argued that we'd be in the Super Bowl with the roster that we have. The defense that we had that kept them to 16 points, forced 4 turnovers for a championship Super Bowl quality team in the Bills, at least from recent history of what we've seen. So we know what we have on offense. We saw the spectacular plays from Garrett Wilson. We've seen Breece Hall still breaking off plays left and right. Dalvin Cook will continue to get better within this offense. The offensive line hopefully will gel. So there's definitely stuff you get excited about. Now, the fallout from him is Aaron Rodgers. We were expecting, and, based on what he was saying, it sounded like we were going to get him for at least 2 to 3 years, potentially more, just depending on how stable we were able to keep the roster by infusing them with talent. Since since that's no longer an option, the question becomes, especially for this season, will we still see Aaron Rodgers be capable of coming in and kind of being that player coach for a guy like Zach Wilson? I don't know if we'll see him on the sidelines at all, since he'll need ACL surgery. The second question will be, will he end up retiring, right? A lot of what he's been basing coming back to play on in recent years has been that he's gotten through his early workouts. He feels good. There's nothing crazy hanging over his head. An ACL tear will change that completely. So now, not only are you talking about not having him for this season, you're talking about your entire plan over the next 2 to 4 years potentially being scrapped if he decides doesn't have the will to work his way back through rehab and all of that to get into football shape, just to get more hits and potentially be concerned about his leg again. So he's already said, he's not really interested in necessarily being a pure coach or anything of that sort. So that takes away your option for Zach Wilson. He's dependent solely on Nathaniel Hackett, Todd Downing, Rob Calabrese, and at this point, Tim Boyle, to kind of help coach him up and keep him prepared week in and week out if he does indeed start this whole season. The only silver lining to this entire thing is that the New York Jets are keeping their first-round pick, so it gives us available options depending on what happens with this season. You're still in play for a quarterback. You can still go out there and hopefully add a quality offensive line member. Maybe continue to infuse talent on the defense. We'll see what happens. But it's just tough to think about the long-term future. Every plan that Robert Saleh has had since he's come in, draft Zach Wilson, have a interesting but inexperienced coaching staff that is glued together by Greg Knapp. Greg Knapp passes, rest in power. All of that goes awry. You bring in a Hall of Famer and quarterback Aaron Rodgers. He goes down in 4 snaps. I don't want to blame Dwayne Brown or Mekhi Becton. The plays that those happened on to me are silly with the actions that got taken. That's all I'll say about that moving forward. But so yeah, we have the Aaron Rodgers retirement. What will that mean for Zach Wilson? Will this coaching staff and Joe Douglas look to add a new quarterback? We talked about it. Our 2 top guys as of the moment, I would say, will still be Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew. We'll see if other names come into the picture again as we get close to the deadline. Robert Saleh, the long-term effects for him, or at least the short-term, I would say, by season's end, he's a guy that I've fallen in love with as one of the better coaches in terms of being a overall CEO style head coach. Obviously, and he's spoken about this as well, his tenure so far hasn't correlated into wins. I think he has a 12-23 record now with this Bills win. And that's what his career is dependent on. So, for whatever it's worth, fine. You could say he's been devoid of talent and all that stuff, all very true. But, at the end of the day, nobody cares about excuses. They want the wins and, everything that comes with it. So, will Robert Saleh be looking at, getting shown the exit? I think at the very minimum, what it will take for him to stay on is going to be a winning season, even if that needs to get done with Zach Wilson. We felt like we should have made the playoffs with him last year. So hopefully with a better coaching staff, we can squeeze just enough out of Zach Wilson to still be able to get that done. But I don't want us to take a step back. I mean, I would have loved Brian Daboll as well. And I know there's another coach or two, Todd Monken, that I wanted for sure that went to the Ravens. And I know there was a third one. But I don't want us to take a step back. This is the best front office coaching staff, unit that we've seen in my time as a Jet. Again, I'm a little bit younger as a fan, especially specifically paying attention to the team in detail. But I don't want us to take a step back. It'll be very easy for us to implode right now and for everything to, just go to the wayside. But this does put us back in the position to be looked at as the underdog. Give us that chip on the shoulder again, where I think a lot of people fed into the Aaron Rodgers energy. And that wasn't the case. We felt like we were the bully and, not the bullied. And so hopefully that gives us the edge that we didn't necessarily see in that Bills game, even though we did do a spectacular job against them. So concerned about Robert Saleh leaving. Joe Douglas, I think, is safe. There's whispers out there that he could be eligible for, executive of the year with things that he's done. But I'd fear this Aaron Rodgers injury, and whatever happens as a result of that with our season will probably put that in jeopardy. But I think it's safe to say that he's safe out there. But yeah, it's just tough for us all the way around. I would say those would be the biggest aftermath questions. Aaron Rodgers' retirement, Zach Wilson's future, right, in terms of not only who's going to be coaching him, but this team. If the coaching staff goes and Zach Wilson fumbles for us, we're looking at starting at ground zero again. Unless a new coaching staff has a quarterback they can insert, we're back to square one. Robert Saleh potentially being shown the door. And again, the only silver lining I can see out of this whole thing is that we're at least keeping our first round draft pick. But at this moment, I don't think anybody really cares about that. This was supposed to be the season that things changed for the better for us. And that just became a huge question mark for us. So I wish I had better news for you guys right now. This is about as generally positive as I can be given the situation, even coming off of this huge win for us. I think we have the Cowboys next, which is a scary idea considering what they did to the Giants. And, I don't think it's hard to argue they have the better quarterback in Daniel Jones right now. So we'll see. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. What do you think should be the next move? And what do you think about some of the questions I posed that we need to seriously consider here? And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.